All right, let's talk about one of those things in Spanish that can really trip you up, even when you're at an advanced level. I'm talking about the verbs of change. You know, that moment when you want to say someone became something and you suddenly realize, wait, there's like 5 different ways to say it. Each one has its own specific flavor, and nailing them is a true sign of fluency. So let's jump right in with a little test. How would you say he became a doctor? Would it be se puso médico? Maybe se hizo médico? Or what about se volvió médico? If you're pausing for a second, you are definitely not alone. This exact kind of nuance is what really separates speaking Spanish well from speaking it like a native. You see, the choice between these verbs isn't just random grammar. It's all about describing the kind of change that happened. Was it a fleeting emotion? Was it the result of years of hard work? Or was it a fundamental shift in someone's personality? Getting this right shows you can really wield the language with precision. Now, to make all of this super clear, we're not just going to stare at a bunch of rules. No, that's boring. Instead, we're going to follow the story of a guy named Javier. His life is going to be our roadmap, and each chapter will give us the perfect context for one of these tricky verbs. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to follow Javier's journey from a nervous young guy to a respected professional. And each step of the way is going to show us exactly when and why we use each of these verbs of change. So our story kicks off at Javier's very first job interview. He's nervous, he's under pressure, and he blushes. In Spanish, we'd say he se puso rojo de vergüenza. This is our first clue. Ponerse is for those temporary, involuntary changes. Think getting sad, getting happy, getting serious, or blushing. It's a fleeting state. It comes and it goes. Well, Javier gets the job, but it's a really toxic place to work. It's super stressful. After a few years there, his whole personality starts to shift. He se volvió muy arisco. He became very surly and difficult. See the difference? This isn't just a temporary blush. This is a deeper, almost permanent transformation of his character. And that's exactly where volverse comes in. So Javier has had enough. He quits his terrible job and decides to go for his real dream, medical school. It takes years of intense study and a ton of hard work, but he does it. Eventually, se hizo médico. Here's our third verb, hacerse. This one is all about a change that you achieve through conscious effort or through a social process. It's perfect for talking about professions, changing your religion, or becoming rich or famous. All right, so now he's Dr. Javier. One day, he's looking at a patient's chart, and the diagnosis is so shocking, so completely unexpected, that he's just speechless. Se quedó sin palabras. Quedarse is all about the result, the state you are left in after something happens. It often carries this feeling of surprise or even loss. You know, like going bald, quedarse calvo, or in this case, being left without any words. Javier's career continues to grow. He dedicates his life to his work, and after decades of effort, he reaches the absolute top of his field. He llegó a ser el director general del hospital. Llegar a ser is our final verb, and it signifies the peak, the culmination of a long, difficult process. This is for those major life achievements that take years of perseverance. Okay, so Javier's story has given us a ton of real-world context. Now let's take everything we just saw and boil it down into a simple, clear set of rules that you can actually use. And here it is. This is basically your cheat sheet. Let's do a quick recap. Ponerse, that's for temporary changes, like getting red in the face. Volverse, that's for a deeper, more permanent change in character. Hacerse is for changes you work for, like becoming a doctor. Quedarse is all about the result, the state you're left in. And finally, llegar a ser is for reaching the top after a long journey. This is a great little table to have handy. Now, even with a cheat sheet, it is super easy to fall into a couple of really common traps. So let's look at the biggest mistakes people make so you can steer clear of them. And here we are, back to our first question. The correct way is se hizo médico, because it implies all those years of effort and study. If you say se puso médico, it honestly sounds like he just put on a doctor's costume for a Halloween party. It completely misses that sense of real, earned transformation. And let's look at the flip side. You'd say se puso nervioso to describe a temporary feeling of anxiety, right? But if you said se hizo nervioso, that would be, well, bizarre. It would mean he consciously worked hard, maybe took classes, to become a nervous person. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? So why does all this technical stuff matter? Well, because mastering these little differences isn't just about grammar. It's about your own transformation as a Spanish speaker. It's about taking your communication skills to the next level.
You know, the official goal for the C1 level of Spanish is called Dominio Operativo Eficaz. It's a fancy phrase, but what it really means is being able to use Spanish flexibly and effectively in any situation. And that's exactly what this is, choosing the perfect word to express a precise, nuanced idea.
So here's the big takeaway. This isn't just a boring grammar lesson, it's really a lesson in storytelling. When you get a handle on these verbs, you can talk about someone's life or a change in your own journey with so much more detail, color, and depth. You sound more authentic. And that brings me to my final question for you. Think about your own life, the changes you've gone through, big and small. Which of these verbs would you use to tell your story? Thanks for tuning in.